Hello and welcome. Tonight, relief for leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, as Court of Appeal discharges him on charges of terrorism, says Federal High Court lacks jurisdiction to try his case. Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai says it's time for federal government to completely let go of the nation's oil and gas industry. And President Muhammadu Buhari says failure of member states of the Gulf of Guinea Commission to fulfill their financial obligations is affecting the Commission's ability to achieve its mandate. On business news tonight, Minister of Trade and Investment promises new initiatives to ease challenges to Nigeria's export in the coming months.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's Flamingos look set for tomorrow's must-win game against New Zealand in the second round of matches at the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India.
And in international news from London, Russia has launched fresh attacks on Ukraine, hitting a critical infrastructure facility near Kyiv.
We begin from the court, where the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has quashed the terrorism charge preferred by the federal government against the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. In the lead judgment delivered by Justice Oludotun Adefope Okoje, the court discharged and acquitted him of the 7-count charge pending against him before the Federal High Court in Abuja. The appellate court, in a unanimous decision by the 3-man panel, says it was satisfied that the federal government flagrantly violated all known international laws and treaties when it forcefully and unlawfully repatriated Mr. Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria for the continuation of his trial without extradition proceedings.
The atmosphere in the court is quiet, with a few lawyers and litigants waiting to witness proceedings in the appeal filed by the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. After a 2-hour wait, the court delivers its judgment, discharging Mr. Nnamdi Kanu of the 6-count charge of terrorism on the grounds that the trial court lacked the jurisdiction to entertain the charges against him. The court held that an unlawful and extraordinary rendition without adherence to due process of the law is a gross violation of all international conventions, protocols and treaties that Nigeria is signatory to, as well as a breach of the appellant's fundamental human rights. The appellate court holds that the federal government failed to controvert the allegation that the IPOB leader was abducted in Kenya and brought back to Nigeria without extradition proceeding. The court further adds that the government was ominously silent on the issue, which is described as very pivotal in determining whether the trial court would still have the jurisdiction to continue with the criminal proceeding before it. The court also notes that Nigeria is a signatory to African Union Convention, which it ratified on April 28, 2022, as well as the Charter on Human and People's Rights, which it said prescribed how a wanted person could be transferred from one country to another through an extradition request, which must be in writing with a statement indicating offences for which a person is wanted. The appellate court held that the government's action tainted the entire proceeding it initiated against Mr. Nnamdi Kanu and amounted to an abuse of criminal prosecution in general. Although the counsel to the federal government left the court immediately after the judgment, the lawyer to Mr. Kanu reacts to the judgment.
There was one fundamental issue on which the court today anchored its judgment, this intermediate court. And that is that the lower court never evaluated the mountain of evidence placed before it regarding the forceful capture, kidnap, torture, and extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya back to Nigeria on the 26th of June, 2021.
With the verdict of the court, the battle may shift to the Supreme Court as Nnamdi Kanu battles to regain freedom.
Well, today's ruling comes about a year after the federal government filed fresh charges of terrorism against the IPOB leader. The legal battle between the government and Mr. Kanu is one that has spanned about 7 years. Let's take a look at the timeline of the trial of Nnamdi Kanu on terrorism charges. Nnamdi Kanu was arrested in October 2015 in Lagos by the Department of State Services. There were controversies about his bail and detention afterwards, while the case dragged on in court, with his absence stalling the trial. In April 2017, he was granted bail on health grounds. He disappeared from public view after September 2017, when his home was raided. Also that year, IPOB was prescribed and designated a terrorist organization by the Nigerian government. In October 2018, pictures surfaced that showed him in Israel while the case against him in Nigeria was pending. His sojourn outside the country lasted till June 2021, when he was arrested in Kenya and extradited back to Nigeria. His trial began in October 2021 on charges of terrorism, treason, and involvement with the banned separatist movement. In January this year, an Abia State High Court ruled his arrests as unlawful and an infringement on human rights. Well, we'll have more on the trial of Nnamdi Kanu and today's landmark ruling in the course of the bulletin. Well, staying with legal matters, a federal high court sitting in Dutse, the Jigawa state capital, has acquitted the former governor of the state, Saminu Turaki, of 8.3 billion naira fraud. The corruption charge was preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Mr. Turaki and 3 other companies have been on trial since May 4, 2007, on a 33-count charge. The defendants were first arraigned before Justice Binta Nyako, judge of the Federal High Court, on July 13, 2007. But in 2011, the case was transferred to the Federal High Court in Dutse after the former governor challenged the jurisdiction of the Abuja court to hear the matter. Giving the ruling, the judge struck out all charges and discharged all the accused persons for want of diligent prosecution. The court further ordered Turaki's travel document to be released to him with immediate effect. To economic matters now, the Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, believes the federal government has no business being in the country's oil and gas industry. Governor El-Rufai says the government should instead privatize the sector and watch it develop, just like the telecom industry, which was fully privatized about 2 decades ago. Governor El-Rufai was speaking on our breakfast show, Sunrise Daily.
In 2001, against all odds of national security, this and that, we got out of telecoms. We licensed, we raised $1 billion in license fees. We brought in the likes of MTN and Econet, and we decided to sell Nitel itself. What is the result? The result is what you're seeing today. You are only able to do this because of the investments in telecoms infrastructure that happened in the last 20 years. And all of it was private. All of it till today. So that's what I mean. And I'm giving this example so that when I say the government should get out of oil and gas, people shouldn't think it's crazy. It is not. There is no reason why the Nigerian government should still be in the oil and gas sector. It should just get out. It has failed. By every measure, it has failed. This year, NNPC has not brought 20,000 naira to the Federation account. We are living on taxes. It is PPT, royalties, and income tax and VAT that is keeping this country going. Because NNPC claims that subsidy has taken all the oil revenues.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe it. But this is what they say. Okay, so the government should sell everything in the oil and gas sector. Nothing has changed. It's just a change in name with limited at the end. And the fact that now, maybe their accounts will be audited faster and so on and so forth. But nothing has changed. They are still taking our money. They are still declaring profits that we don't see the dividends. And NNPC is a big problem for Nigeria, and unless we resolve it, it will bring Nigeria to its knees. I have said this 5 years ago, and it has not changed, even with Melekari, who is trying to do well. But it's a systemic and institutional problem. It's beyond one person.
And to the State House, President Muhammadu Buhari is appealing to member states of the Gulf of Guinea Commission, GGC, to remit their outstanding annual assessed contributions to the Secretariat. The President stated this at a virtual meeting of the heads of state and government of member states of the Commission. The meeting is convened to review progress on efforts to deal with the maritime challenges in the region.
Nigeria has continued to deploy significant resources towards tackling piracy in the Gulf of Guinea. Through the Deep Blue Project in June 2021, the government of Nigeria unveiled $195 million United States dollars worth of boats, vehicles, and aircraft to spearhead the country's fight against piracy in the Gulf of Guinea. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the operational mechanisms in the Gulf of Guinea region, as you know, are similar to those in some other regional organizations. It is therefore imperative that the Gulf of Guinea Commission adopts a collaborative strategy to engage partners and donors in creating awareness on the objectives of the organization with a view to synergizing for more effective results towards fighting maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea Commission region. Finally, I would like to encourage member states of the Gulf of Guinea Commission to remit to their outstanding annual assessed contributions to the Gulf of Guinea Commission Secretariat, as the continued non-payment by the majority has greatly affected the ability of the Commission to fulfill the mandate for which it was established in 2001, and is also threatening the continued existence of the Commission.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari. Let's go over to Benue State now, where the state government, through the State House of Assembly, has approved the establishment of state police in the ongoing constitutional amendment seeking the approval of 2/3 of the State Houses of Assembly to pass the bill into law at the National Assembly. The Speaker of the State Assembly, Mr. Titus Uba, gave this insight at the passing out parade of additional 1,000 personnel in the second batch of the Benue State Community Volunteer Guards in Makurdi, the state capital.
About 1,000 men and women who have undergone intensive paramilitary training are set for their formal inauguration, with their display of combat readiness as new members of the Benue State Community Volunteer Guards Batch B.
Watching keenly, but with enthusiasm and interest.
The state's Volunteer Guards Reviewing Officer, Governor Samuel Otom, in company of state officials and heads of security and paramilitary agencies, are here for the exercise, as their mandate is articulated.
Resource persons were drawn from various military and paramilitary formations in Benue State to train the selected personnel in various aspects, such as physical training, anti-riot drills, unarmed combat, practical weapon handling, radio communication skills, intelligence acquisition and dissemination, and the protection of critical national and state infrastructure, among others.
I believe you're coming in to be the challenging internal security will be reduced to a very minimum.
Therefore, clearly show that with or without arms, they are capable of defending.
Their responsibility is to complement the efforts of conventional security agencies, which is why Governor Otom wants the guards to strictly adhere to the rules of engagement.
Our intention is to ensure that we have 10,000 community volunteer guards before the end of my tenure. I once again urge the command structure of the Benue State volunteer guards to operate strictly within the ambit of the law in order not to betray the powers bestowed on them by the people of Benue State.
The Speaker of the State House of Assembly explains that the resolution for a state corps is to help address insecurity across the state.
The introduction of community volunteer guards today, that is very solid, and this has given confidence to our people that we can sleep in Benue State today with our eyes closed.
With this display of combat readiness and logistics at their disposal, the State Community Volunteer Guards respite may as well be on the way for communities prone to incessant attacks.
In part two, after the break, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, appeals to Nigerians to heed early flood warnings as Nigeria marks International Day of Disaster Reduction. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Relief for leader of proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, as Court of Appeal discharges him on charges of terrorism. Says Federal High Court lacks jurisdiction to try his case. Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai says it's time for the federal government to completely let go of the nation's oil and gas industry. President Muhammadu Buhari says the failure of member states of the Gulf of Guinea Commission to fulfill their financial obligations is affecting the Commission's ability to achieve its mandate. And Russia launches fresh attacks on Ukraine, hitting critical infrastructure facility near Kyiv. We go now to politics, where the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party for the 2023 presidential election, Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, has been meeting with the party's stakeholders in the northeast ahead of the general elections. Mr. Baba Ahmed, who met with the stakeholders in Maiduguri, the Benue state capital, today, says the visit is part of his personal assessment tour of 16 states in the north to check the voting pattern and strategize ahead of the election. He was accompanied on the visit by the Director General of the Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Committee, Audu Mohammed, Senator Victor La, and other party faithful.
I am on what I call personal assessment tour of 13 states in the north. These are the 7 northwest states, and then 5 states in the northeast, that is the 6 less Taraba, plus Niger State in the north central. Reasons for this particular selection will be given at a different sitting. I'm on a personal assessment tour in these 13 states, and I believe I will see for myself the particular challenges, peculiarities, key individuals, trends in the states, the established voting pattern, and how we will reform it in our favor to win the 2023 general elections. Then go back and sit with the Presidential Campaign Council and other organs of the obedient movement just to enhance the already existing bright chances of winning the 2023 presidential elections.
Still on politics, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, is going ahead with its presidential campaign and has no intention of suspending it. This is according to the Director General of the party's presidential campaign organization and Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal. Governor Tambuwal, who is reacting to reports that the party's presidential campaign has been suspended, says its campaign train will land in Kaduna State Monday, the 17th of October. He added that the reception accorded the party during its campaign flag-off in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, a few days ago, is a reflection of the party's acceptance in Nigeria.
Very impressive outing on the 10th of this month at Uyo, Akwa Ibom state, by launching and flagging off our campaign for Atiku and Okowa 2023 under the platform of the People's Democratic Party. I was amazed and taken aback only last night when I saw on social media and very many platforms that we have called off our campaign. That is far, far from the truth. It's fake news. And we are, in fact, going ahead with the campaign. We are continuing by the grace of God on Monday in Kaduna. So our campaigns are ongoing, and we hope that to be able to convince Nigerians to vote for Atiku and Okowa come February 2023. They are afraid because they have not started. None of the other parties has actually even composed the campaign councils or inaugurated their campaign councils. We have gone far ahead of them, so they are trying to throw spanners at our works, but they will not succeed. It's one of those political shenanigans when you see a party that is doing well, candidate that is doing better than you, all you begin to do is to cause mischief. It's not going to work. We are running, and our campaigns, as I said before, are going to be issue-based. We believe that we have solutions to the problems that are bedeviling the development of our country.
Meanwhile, as Nigerians await the commencement of campaigns by the Presidential Campaign Council of the ruling All Progressives Congress Party, the Party Faithful, that is, under the Tinubu-Shettima ambassadors, are appealing to Nigerians to team up with the party in order to build a better country. Speaking in Abuja at an event to distribute campaign materials, the Director General of the group, Mr. Oyelude Oladele, says the Tinubu-Shettima ticket portends hope for a new and prosperous Nigeria.
Our objective as a parliamentary support group is to mobilize eligible voters from the grassroots for the aspiration of Tinubu-Shettima joint tickets by reaching out to the State House of Assembly members, local government assembly members, or their aides. Considering the outstanding leadership qualities, personal attributes, antecedents of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate, Senator Kashim Shettima, Nigerians will be safe under their watch from 2023 as their combination a perfect combination. They are both bridge builders across regional, ethnic, and religion lines that are capable of uniting the country. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a merchant of hope, while his running mate, Senator Kashim Shettima, is a merchant of dreams. Capable of redefining the meaning and concept of modern leadership in Nigeria. We must project their joint tickets as a transformation agenda.
And away from politics, as Nigeria joins the international community to mark the 2022 International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, Nigerians have been urged to heed to early warning signals to avoid being impacted by natural disasters such as flood. Speaking at an event to mark the day in Abuja, the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Mr. Mustafa Ahmed, explains that over 500 lives have been lost and over 1.4 million persons have been displaced.
It's the 2022 International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, and key disaster management officials have gathered here to share their experiences on the best approach to mitigate the impact of disasters. The day provides an opportunity to acknowledge the progress being made towards preventing and reducing disaster risk and losses in line with the International Agreement for Reducing Global Disaster Risk and Losses. Before the commencement of the rainy season, the federal government had issued early warnings on the likely impact of floods, and when the rain started, the result is the loss of over 500 lives, about 1.4 million displaced persons, and destruction of at least 9,000 homes across 27 states.
The ministry and all relevant stakeholders are drawing up an implementation framework for the plan. The plan stipulates specific roles and actions for all, including national, state, and local governments, as well as households, communities, and pressure groups. The ministry considers the importance of preventing death and loss of lives in disaster as predicted to occur every year.
A recent initiative adopted by the federal government to mitigate the impact of climate change is the establishment of the Council on Climate Change, and it's expected it will help provide solutions to the emerging climate-related issues.
Mainstreaming disaster risk reduction in the national agenda is a very important one. And therefore, Mr. President, in November last year, signed into law the establishment of the National Council on Climate Change. And with this, the country is sending a signal to the global community that the issue of climate change and natural disaster response is a very important one to this country.
For the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, the essence of the early warning signals is to avoid fatalities, and Nigerians must take the warnings seriously.
When seasonal climate prediction was released, we alerted the whole nation. We alerted all the states, local governments, with even risk mapping, identifying vulnerable areas in time. But as God has it, the nation today, as we are, everywhere is flooded.
The main objective of the International Day for Disaster Reduction is to encourage every citizen to take part in building more disaster-resilient communities. This is what the government wants Nigerians to do, especially as the rainy season isn't abating anytime soon.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Minister of Trade and Investment promises new initiatives to ease challenges to Nigeria's exports in the coming months. That's on Business News. Do stay with us. Welcome back, and let's take you to our top story, talking about the quashed terrorism charges preferred by the federal government against IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. Well, we understand that the federal government, through the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, says that it will explore all appropriate legal options before it. A statement from the Office of the Minister says the decision handed down by the Court of Appeal was on a single issue that borders on rendition. The statement reads further, let it be made clear to the general public that other issues that predate rendition on the basis of which Mr. Kanu jumped bail remain valid issues for judicial determination. The federal government will consider all available options open to it on the judgment on rendition while pursuing determination of pre-rendition issues. Well, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Michael Zekame, joins me now for more on this ruling. Thank you for joining me on the program. I'd like to begin, this is no doubt a good day for the legal team of Nnamdi Kanu, but what does it mean exactly in clear parlance?
Well, what it means in clear parlance is that Nnamdi Kanu was discharged today. That means he's a free man, and he should be allowed to go home tomorrow. By the time we get a certified true copy of the judgment, we'll serve it on the Office of the Attorney General and the DSS to allow Nnamdi Kanu go. Let my people go. That is how it is put in the Bible.
But Chief Zekame, we've heard from the federal government right now.
Was not allowing that, there was a problem. Yeah.
We just had the update from the federal government saying that it's just, on a single issue bordering on rendition, and they are looking at taking other legal options, afforded to the government.
The single issue bordering on extraordinary rendition after he was brutally captured, tortured in Kenya, blindfolded, and extrajudicially rendered back to Nigeria, is what determined it. We put all the facts before the court. The federal government had no answer to any of the allegations. And in law, when we make certain factual allegations and they are not denied, they are deemed admitted. So if the federal government wants to pursue trifles against a citizen by appealing against such a well-rendered judgment, I can only wish them good luck. But let me also tell the federal government, if they appeal, I'm going to file a cross appeal against two of the issues which I do not agree with the Court of Appeal on. That is the issue of the situs of the place of commission of an offense. Section 45 of the Federal High Court Act and decisions of the Supreme Court make it clear that you can only try a person in a place where you disclose the venue of the commission of the crime, the time, the circumstances. But when you say Nnamdi made a broadcast, from where did he make the broadcast? Is it in the spirit world? Is it in the land of the dead? The Court of Appeal, with all respect, appeared to have glossed over that something by saying, oh, it didn't matter since the charge, the counts did not deceive him. That is not the issue. Supreme Court, look, the Lebanese case that was tried, we all watched it, was it last year? They were accused of having catch of farms in Kanu, but they were tried in Abuja. And the Supreme Court quashed the entire judgment because it is the venue of the commission of a crime that you should try the person. And Nnamdi Kanu, you say he made a broadcast. You have not told us where he made this broadcast from. The other one, the Court of Appeal also agreed with us, where they said he brought in a transmitter at Obulu Suzo in Ihiala local government area of Anambra State, which is outside the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court of Abuja. They also agree with us. But all in all, the issue was jurisdictional, and that is that under the Extradition Act, particularly Section 15, and under international conventions, OAU, United Nations, you cannot extrajudicially render a person by brute force, by force of arms, from one country to another. There must be a warrant of arrest, which must accompany a written document to the host country that we want this person back. They did not do that. They just forced him back. And the doctrine of specialty is that even when you bring such a person back, you can only try him for the offense that you are bringing him back for. But they still subjected Nnamdi Kanu to the first initial 5-count charge, which they later amended to 7 counts. Then they later amended again to 15 counts. Let me tell you, the federal government has amended the counts against Nnamdi Kanu 7 whole times. And the court, at the Federal High Court, I was able to get 8 of the 15 counts dismissed. It was the remaining 7 that the lower court held on to that were today dismissed by the Court of Appeal. The all remaining 7 counts were set aside, and then Nnamdi Kanu was set free, discharged by the Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court has said such a discharge amounts to discharge and acquittal. If they want to appeal against a mere citizen, when I think the federal government should see this as a good reception, as a matter that is good for the whole country, to bring about normalcy, peace to the southeast, peace to Nigeria, and then you still want to appeal, then my take on it is that it will amount to persecution and no longer prosecution. In any event, why should the federal government, through the DSSS, that arrested this man, they are keeping him, they investigated him, they are prosecuting him, they are Lord and Master, the accuser, the prosecutor, the judge. And that cannot be a fair trial or a fair hearing. So what the Court of Appeal did today is what the federal government should have quickly done even before the Court of Appeal intervention. When I wrote Mr. President last week, 38-page letter with 3-page executive summary, begging genuflectingly Mr. President to kindly release Nnamdi Kanu in accordance with the July 2022 decision ruling by the United Nations Working Group on Human Rights, where they say Nnamdi Kanu was extrajudicially rendered to Nigeria and that he was tortured, and that the federal government should release him immediately and also pay him compensation.
Chief Ozekeme, I believe that, you know, considering all that you said and seeing as the position of the federal government as well, this might be a matter that still will continue, you know, in the courts. But I think we should leave it there. We'd like to thank you, appreciate your time. I wish we had more time.
Tomorrow, it does not stop Nnamdi Kanu being released. A notice of appeal does not act as a stay of execution, nor does it render a judgment of the lower court invalid. They should release Nnamdi Kanu immediately and let him go. And let peace reign in Nigeria, for God's sake.
Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Chief Mike Ozekeme, thank you for joining us on the News at 10.
Yes, thank you very much.
Let's go on to other stories now. Bank directors and industry regulators have agreed to strengthen their relationship to achieve financial sustainability in the sector. The understanding was reached at the annual summit of the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria, a not-for-profit organization. The meeting comes amid global inflationary pressures and monetary policy tightening.
It's the first in-person meeting between the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria and industry regulators since the COVID-19 pandemic.
We also have Deputy Governor Aisha Ahmed.
The focus here is to brainstorm on measures to safeguard financial stability and identify threats in the banking industry amid global monetary policy tightening.
Both keeping to their
internally generated profits represents the principal source of capital to banks. However, certain regulations, according to the keynote speaker and founding managing director of Augusto & Co., Mr. Olabode Augusto, could affect banks' profitability.
The key reforms that we believe should happen should include allowing the risk-free rate measured by the average yield on one-year government securities to be at least 100 basis points above long-term inflation, reducing cash reserve requirements to not more than 15% of deposits.
He believes the federal government's debt profile could be a threat to the banking sector.
The naira debt of the federal government is very big, and it will tend to drive up interest rates. And when interest rates are high, people are less able to use debt efficiently, the likelihood of default is higher, and the loss of capital for the banking sector is higher.
In September, the Central Bank of Nigeria raised interest rates by 150 basis points to 15.5% and cash reserve ratio to 32.5% from 27.5%, one of the highest compared to other climes and a cause for concern for the president of the association.
A complicated issue. CRR has a purpose. We know 0% is too low, but we think 32.5 is too high. But we're not consulted. And CABN has its objectives as to why it has a CRR at 2.5%. I'm sure they can defend it. But we would like to be consulted in the future because it's a dramatic impact on the banking system. And while there may be good reasons for it, it would have been better if we were carried along.
In the face of rising global prices, industry stakeholders believe risk management will help banks prepare for periods of booms and busts.
Stanbic IBTC Bank has expressed its unwavering commitment to improving and supporting Nigerian businesses across all sectors with the launching of its proposition tagged Growth Built on Trust in Lagos. The bank says the launch is to showcase all the financial solutions, including advisory services, that businesses can take advantage of to meet their growth aspirations.
Stanbic IBTC Bank is championing the cause for an improved economy by creating solutions that address the growth challenges affecting Nigerian businesses. Stanbic IBTC Bank rolls out Growth Built on Trust to showcase its services that businesses can leverage to help them to expand their horizon.
Well, at Stanbic IBTC and I think in our larger group, the Standard Bank Group, trust is an essential element of all we do. It's ingrained in our DNA, and we firmly believe that Any relationship is built on trust, and the better you build that trust quotient, the better the relationship.
Growth built on trust emphasizes the need for Stanbic IBTC Bank to partner businesses and support them through their challenges.
We play across various sectors. These include agribusiness or agriculture, oil and gas, healthcare, education, trade, both domestic and international trade. All these sectors are very, very important and contribute significantly to the GDP of the country, which is why they are all sectors of focus for us as Stanbic IBTC Bank. Our impact on these sectors are, known in the industry.
The bank also unveiled its strategic and innovative solutions for its corporate clientele, which includes trade and investment, client coverage, and global markets.
PAPS, as an acronym, it stands for Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, and at the core of it is to deliver, or should I say turbocharge, the whole growth we're talking about from an Africa Continental Free Trade standpoint. In its value proposition, the delivery would deliver efficient, timely, and cost-effective cross-border payments and trade settlement.
Stanbic IBTC Bank says it is committed to equipping entrepreneurs and businesses with beneficial facilities for their growth and expansion of the nation's economy.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria Export Promotion Group has been highlighting the need to promote non-oil export for sustainable development and job creation. The latest conversation was at the group's 5th annual general meeting in Lagos, which had the Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, Mr. Adeniyi Adebayo, in attendance. He promised ease in Nigeria's export process within the next few months.
Well, government is already working on mitigating the problems associated with export. We are looking at various options, and within the next few months, we will come up with a scheme that would make it easier for people to export their goods from the country. That rather than export raw materials, they should actually add value before export. And right now, the focus of the Central Bank of Nigeria is a situation whereby, because of the shortage of foreign exchange, the Central Bank of Nigeria gives priority to people who are importing machinery that utilize local raw materials. So the major focus of government right now is to add value to our export before we export. And the whole idea is to stop exporting jobs. If we, rather than export raw materials, if we if they're processed here, it gives us an opportunity for more employment in the country.
Bearish sentiment continues to dominate the domestic equities market. The all-share index drifted further away from the 48,000 points, while month-to-date loss increased to minus 3.1%. Will Ebong has the details. Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's a continuous slide for equities. As you see, the all-share index record a marginal drop in today's trading session. Now, it appears to no longer have investors pumping as the share price dipped over 9% today to close at 110 naira. But still above the listing price. Still on the losers counter, we see UACN leading that counter to close at 9.25 kobo. It was down 9.76% today. We do have outliers, and Honeywell Flour brought the honey today to lead that counter by almost 10% to close at 2.13 kobo. But it was a deep dive in a sea of red for the activity chart as the volume, value, and deals hit rocky waters. Not a great outlook for equities in the midst of global headwinds, but final day tomorrow. Let's see if the NGX can bring home the bacon. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Will Ibang. It's back to you.
business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawodu. The rest of the news at 10 continues with Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. The Russian-installed leader of Ukraine's southern Kherson region, Vladimir Saldo, has called on civilians to evacuate, citing daily rocket attacks by advancing Ukrainian forces. Now, he urged them to save themselves by going to Russia for leisure and study and asked for Moscow's help. Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russia has launched fresh attacks on Ukraine, hitting a critical infrastructure facility near Kiev. Authorities say massive shelling in the southern city of Mykolaiv has killed 2 people and injured many more. Here, drone footage showing the full extent of the damage. A 12-year-old boy was rescued from under the rubble of a residential building after being trapped for 6 hours. Named only as Artem, he was pulled out at 7:50 local time and was taken to a medical facility. 7 other people are still believed to be missing. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has met Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on the sidelines of a summit in Kazakhstan. They were both attending the summit of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia. During the meeting, President Putin suggested Turkey could be used as a hub to deliver Russian gas to Europe. A Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, said that President Putin and his Turkish counterpart did not discuss ways to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. A rare protest attacking President Xi Jinping and China's COVID restrictions has taken place in Beijing just days before a historic Communist Party Congress. Images showed 2 protest banners on a bridge in the northwest of the city. The demonstration appeared to have been swiftly stopped by authorities. Frustration has been mounting in the capital before the Congress, while there has been an outpouring of anger online at strict security measures and the COVID restrictions that have recently been put in place. Local authorities have been handing out relief supplies to villagers living in flood-affected areas in central Thailand. Authorities were seen wading through chest-high water in the Bangban district to distribute relief packages, going from houses to houses on boats. United Nations agencies have said that following drought and the worst floods in 30 years, 2.1 million people in Chad are acutely hungry. Hospitals in the capital say they're seeing increasing numbers of children hospitalized with malnutrition. Severe drought in Chad, followed by the worst floods in 30 years, have led to the rocketing of food prices. UN agencies say food and medical relief, as well as financial donations, are desperately needed in the country. A senior member of Giorgia Meloni's Nationalist Brothers of Italy party has been elected Speaker of the Upper House Senate despite a revolt within the right-wing coalition that won last month's general election.
Non c'è bisogno per concludere di parole che suscitano.
Ignazio La Russa clinched the necessary majority in the Senate vote, even though many members of Silvio Berlusconi's conservative Forza Italia party boycotted the ballot. In theory, La Russa should not have been able to win without the support of Forza Italia senators, but in the end he got 116 votes, lifting him well above the required 104-vote majority. It was not immediately clear which opposition politicians had backed him in the secret ballot. And a storm simulator has been launched in Denmark to allow people of all ages to experience the force of extreme winds in a safe environment. The first 2 simulators, called Beat the Storm, were set up at the Universe Science Park in Nordborg in Denmark this summer and operate with wind speeds of up to 130 kilometers per hour, higher than that of a Category 2 hurricane. According to the company, the wind simulator is the first publicly accessible hurricane simulation and is suitable for people from 5 to 80 years old. The simulator also features sound, light and animation special effects, so the storms can be experienced in different areas such as in cities, mountains, forests or deserts.
With Storm, we are providing a hurricane simulator. So basically, we provide opportunity for anyone, for wide audience, to try out, to discover hurricane in safe environment.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. President of the Nigeria Football Federation, Ibrahim Guzo, has challenged the national under-17 female team, the Flamingos, to put their defeat to Germany behind them and go all out for 3 points when they take to the pitch against their New Zealand counterparts tomorrow afternoon at the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup taking place in India. Both teams lost their opening game, and Nigeria could go to second place ahead of the final matches in Group B if they overpowered New Zealand by 2 goals and Germany overcome Chile in the second match at the same stadium where they played their first game. Brazil forward Neymar will stand trial next week on fraud charges, fraud and corruption charges, that is, over his transfer to FC Barcelona from Santos in 2013. And the complainant, Brazilian investment firm DIS, is demanding a 5-year jail term. Along with Neymar, the defendants in the trial being brought by Spanish prosecutors, which begins in Barcelona on Monday, are his parents, the 2 clubs, former Barca presidents Josep Maria Bartomeu and Sandro Rosell, and former Santos president Odilio Rodriguez. A 6-time major winner, Phil Mickelson, said he loves his decision of joining the Saudi-backed breakaway Live Golf Series, which he believes is trending upwards, while the PGA Tour will be trending downwards. And that's a wrap on sports news.
And the main news again. The Court of Appeal today discharged the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, on terrorism-related charges. The 3-man panel ruled that the Federal High Court lacked jurisdiction to try him in view of his abduction and extraordinary rendition to Nigeria in flagrant violation of OAU Convention and Protocol on Extradition. The federal government has, however, said it will explore all appropriate legal options before it on the judgment today, while pursuing determination on pre-rendition issues. And that's your news at 10 to 9. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.